Welcome to Joy and Gratitude, another wonderful episode coming your way. And we are so excited because today we have our first set of guests. So I'm Neo Cairo, and this is my wonderful, fabulous co host, Miss Beth Mercurio. And Beth, go ahead, take it from here.
Yeah. All right. Amazing. So, hello, everyone. It's Beth Mercurio. You all know me. And as Neo said, this is super exciting. So, we have some guests today, and we are going to talk about stepping into joy and kindness. And for those of you who have heard us before, you know we are all about joy and gratitude. And tightly linked into there is how can we show up as humans that are kind? And that all starts with self. So I'm hoping that our guests, Herb and Amanda, can introduce themselves and share why this topic is important to them and why they're here with us today to talk about leaning in and stepping into joy and kindness.
Herb, let's start with you, my friend.
Hey, ladies first. I'm from the South. Go ahead, Amanda. Knock them out.
That is very kind of you, my friend. So, I'm Amanda Banks. I am the founder of Create and Innovate Solutions. I also run a TEDx event here locally in Old Hickory, Tennessee. And to me, kindness and joy and gratitude and all of these things are fundamental in how I approach business, how I approach life. And that's why my good friend Herb Lang is joining in on this call as well. Herb, off to you, my friend.
All right. For those who don't know me, my name is Herb Lang, also known as Flight Time. The Flight Time comes from my 18 seasons with a pretty well-known team, the world famous Harlem Globetrotters, where I spent 18 years as a player and my last couple of years as a player and coach. I'm originally from a small town in Arkansas called Brinkley. It sits right between the big city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and Memphis, Tennessee, off of I-40. And I'm just really blessed to be here. Everything that's really happened in my life has been a result of kindness and people believing in me at a young age, even more so than I believed in myself. And it's led to some amazing connections, amazing journeys. And it's actually what led me here with you guys today with the opportunity to talk about kindness and joy with my friend Amanda and my new friends, Beth and Neo.
You
I
know,
love it.
we are so excited to have you because it's all about people hearing our stories. And Herb, if you could just explain to our audience how you felt that kindness was your grounding point. Could you tell a little bit of your story?
Absolutely. I mean, the way kindness has played such a major role in my life, I'd say it started at a really, really young age. I grew up in Arkansas. My mother had me at the age of 17 years old. By the time she turned 25, there were 6 mouths to feed. And it took a lot of people within the community. It took my aunts, my uncles, it took teachers, it took coaches, to kind of mentor me and lead me down that right path. Again, like I said, believing in me more than I believed in myself. And that led to me working hard in the classroom. It led to me not only competing in sports, but also, wanting to develop my educational skills. The people that believed in me enough to where I was able to earn a basketball scholarship just by word of mouth. The school that I got my scholarship to, Centenary College, located in Shreveport, Louisiana, they never saw me play a game of basketball, but they knew through word of mouth that I had the grades and I had the talent, to be a great basketball player. And they, once I got that opportunity, I wanted to make sure that I didn't disappoint them. That led to my scholarship, 4 years of playing basketball, which again, kindness, somebody believing in me more than I believed in myself. A really good friend of mine ended up going to a Globetrotter game, and he came home from the game. We were roommates at the time, and he felt like that I could become a Globetrotter. I didn't really see that as my path. I saw myself either playing in the NBA or going overseas and play. But a couple of weeks of hard work and making close to minimum wage led to me actually reaching out, and it just turned into 18 years of traveling around the world. And every year when we got ready to do our programs, always talked about patience and kindness, patience and kindness. It's been, such a major part of my life. And that led to me writing a book. And every step in that book was kindness. It was people showing up and then believing in me and me, making sure that I didn't disappoint these people.
Thank you so much for that story. And Amanda, one thing I have to tell the audience is I met Amanda through kindness. I had no idea how to get myself out there and really expand my speaking. And I reached out to Amanda, and she just poured out her knowledge. with no expectations, just in pure kindness. And I see her as one of my mentors. So, Amanda, tell us about how you lead and how you help so many people find their place and their voice.
Well, thank you for that. That's quite the tearjerker on my end. I like Herb. I was a former athlete, and I've been around coaching and leadership all of my life. But I can't say that up until a certain point, I had great leadership in my life. And so it wasn't until I went and worked for an organization that had an incredible leader that really opened my eyes to what good quality leadership looked like and how we as individual leaders can make decisions on how we choose to lead despite what our backgrounds look like. So I've been on a journey of learning what good quality leadership is, and how I myself as a leader want to show up and represent who I am and what I do and how I deliver, um, just me as a human being to the world. And so I really appreciate those kind words, as well as the question, because it's super meaningful to me.
I'm going to just pipe in and say one of the things that's coming across loud and clear that I certainly believe in, and I don't know, Neil and I talk a lot about, is this idea of self leadership. So you were talking about, looking at leaders, but then also really looking at yourself. And Herb, you were talking about, the path not necessarily going exactly where you thought, and then going back and saying, okay, maybe this is something I am interested in, right? So your patience in finding your own way. And I think that I would love to just spend a little time talking about that because truthfully, I think I would love for people to understand this idea of self leadership, that we are all leaders. I know sometimes, when I say to somebody, oh, I work with leaders, they think that I'm only talking about corporate or I'm only talking about like something that's not them. I'm like, oh no, we're all leaders of our own lives. And the beauty is, if we can lead from self first, then we get to extend in the most beautiful way and extend with kindness, extend with simply just believing in somebody else. You guys have both mentioned that. And I know that's both important to both of you. Just sort of letting somebody know that you believe in them, that then gives them an ability to maybe believe in themselves a little bit more than they had just before that moment. And so when I say self leadership, I know what it means for me, and I'm trying to help explain what I believe it means for me and hopefully for others. But what do you guys think when we talk about self leadership? What does that mean to you, and how do you manifest it in your own lives?
Well, for me personally, I think that self leadership it starts with discipline, and I think that's one of the really cool things about being a former professional athlete. It took a lot of discipline, and also a leader. I feel like has to be a person that's been out in the field and has some experiences. Oftentimes, we see leaders that are just appointed or handed over these positions, but for me, it's always kind of been about starting at the back of the room, paying attention to the people who are on your team, the people that are working for you and understanding them. One of the cool things and one of the key points that one of my coaches made in college to me that I'll never forget, he said to me, you can't lead and coach everybody the same. You have some people on your team that need a little extra pat on the back. Some people don't need that. Some people just need, a high five. Some people may need that promotion, but you have to recognize your audience and you have to be able to realize that you have to coach everybody and lead everybody a little bit different. And once you can figure out, these skills, and also you have to be able to willing to go out there and do the work that you're asking them to do. I think a good leader is somebody who's actually willing to go out there and do the work, let those people underneath you, feel like they're actually not necessarily beneath you, but also a part of you. And once you're able to, key into those factors, you're able to build a good team, a good work environment. And once you create a good work environment, you have people that are willing to work for you. Even when you're not there, they're willing to make sure that things are going the way that they're supposed to. For me, those are just a couple of important leadership skills that I feel like leaders tend to miss out on. Get to know your employees, get to know your team.
What listening to you, and we'll definitely be hearing Amanda's side in a minute. One of the things that I'm listening is set the example and make sure that you're treating your team the way you want to be treated. That we're all a little bit different and need different things at different times. So, thank you for giving us that. Amanda, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've dug into this a lot, and thinking through all of these different questions that you guys are asking. And one of the things that's really clear to me is, as a leader, you need to have a clear direction of where you're going. But you also need to have the flexibility to adjust as different resources, different knowledge, different things come in your pathway. And I think also from an entrepreneur's perspective, we have big visions. We want to make grand impacts and we want to do all of these grandiose things. But having the opportunity to collaborate and learn from people like Marshall Goldsmith, who's the number one executive coach in the world and incredibly influential in the executive leadership space, learning that his methodologies have changed over the years. And even though he's had a vision of where he's going, he's had to adjust based on the information and the knowledge. And one of the things that he talks a lot about now is, wanting to make a big impact. That's a buzzword that we hear all the time. But now the vision is if I can just change somebody's day by the minute, think about how that grows over time. So, I think that being very clear on where you're wanting to go, where you're wanting to head, but then also being flexible is also incredibly important in leadership, because as we get new information and knowledge, we have to adjust accordingly, according to that information.
One of the things that I see that is a struggle right now is the generational gaps. We were raised a certain way, we have different experiences, but because of the pandemic, we have a real gap with the millennials and the Gen Zs. How do you see us helping them through the learning process to actually be able to find their leadership voice and to be able to complete their goals? Because they seem to, and this, I don't like generalities, but there seems to be this lull of being stuck right now. Everybody has an anxiety, everybody has a depression, everybody has things that we never talked about before. I'm not dismissing them, but how do we help our younger generation? Amanda?
Uh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Amanda, it's your turn. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm a millennial. I can only speak for myself, but I think it's about open communication and dialogue, right? It's about bringing people together and having the tough conversations, talking about these generational differences. And I think that it's all parties having to adjust and become flexible and figure out new ways to support and collaborate. The reality is with technology and some of all of like the dynamic environments that we're going under, regardless of who you are, where you're come from, what your background is, what your age, what your sex, what your race, like we need to start having these difficult conversations to figure out what work is going to look like even in the next week, because as we all know, with artificial intelligence, it's changing so rapidly. But that's my thought process, is everybody just needs to come from a place of kindness, joy, deep curiosity, and start thinking through how can we have conversations that are meaningful, that talk about innovation and what work needs to look like, not just for the millennials or the Gen Zs, but for everybody cohesively.
Thank you.
yeah, and just to tag along with what Amanda just very well pointed out, I think it's important that we're able to adapt to change. I felt like during my 18-year career with the Globetrotters, I felt like it was kind of like college. Things kind of happen in fours. Every 4 years, there was a different type of athlete that came in. A
Mm.
person like me, I won the college dunk contest in 1998. In 2002, I was watching that same dunk contest and watching the creativity of the new generation. And I'm thinking, wow, I wouldn't have had a chance. And every 4 years that I was out there on the road, I felt like a different group of athlete, a different group of human came in, and I was able to pay attention and adapt and accept the change. If we're not willing to accept the change, then you can't have the conversation. And I never wanted to be that old guy who was saying, well, back in my day, we used to do it like this. Well, back in that day, nobody wants to hear that. You have to be willing to listen to the young people and the old people and kind of, meet them in the middle. And I feel like, during COVID, as you mentioned, Neo, we all discovered that we have these anxieties and these worries, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think
Mm-mm.
one of the important things about, being a leader is being able to recognize the faults that you have, being able to take coaching as well. Leaders need coaching as well. Nobody knows it all, and so to be able to, uh, you know, tell people, hey, it's okay to go get some therapy. It's okay to bring people in to teach us how to adapt to an ever changing environment. I think that it is very important and very key in us being able to bridge the gap between the generations.
Couldn't be said better. Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, I just, two words are really coming up for me as I'm listening to you, all of you describe this. And it's curiosity, which I love, Amanda, you said. And then Herb, you said listening. And I feel like one of the things that I think we should talk about is we talked about, you know, sort of some clarity in knowing where you want to go, a vision, a move forward. But I do think some people don't even know what that is for them. So I was thinking about taking us back a step and going, okay, when you know that, I agree, it's like amazing, and you have a forward motion and a plan. But I also think there are a lot of people, certainly that I've been bumping into, who are a little bit like Neo. You referred to it as a stuck, or just don't really know how to move or how to shift or adapt. So for those people, I think this idea of mindful listening, which you mentioned, is so critical to understanding because, it used to be called active listening, right? Where we would just be like, okay, my eyes are on you and I'm not doing anything else and I'm really, really listening to you. But nowadays, it's like that's not really enough. I mean, yes, being present is the first and foremost piece of how you listen to someone actively. But this idea of mindful listening is how do we elevate? How do we listen to someone so intently that we can then take what they're sharing with us and amplify? So you picture it as like a trampoline. And this is not my idea, but I read it and it really resonates with me for those people who aren't really sure what their go forward is. Like, how do we listen to them with such mindfulness and care that we help them to think about, well, what do you wish for? Or what is it that's making you feel stuck, and try to get them to have a little bit of that forward motion, which goes back to how we started this conversation in self-leadership. Do we understand ourselves? Do we have enough self-awareness? And if not, there are lots of incredible tools out there, right? We know around emotional intelligence, around understanding sort of what do we know about ourselves, what do we not, what are our blind spots. So as we think about mindful listening and how our understanding of self really does propel us forward, what kinds of things sort of have you guys experienced or done or used in the past to help you if you have been stuck and maybe not known exactly how you want to move forward?
Yeah, happy to jump in here. So I just recognize it's part of the process. Like being stuck to me, I actually find deep gratitude in certain ways because I think, okay, well, this is a turning point. This means that I have to make a decision or I have to do something different than what I'm currently doing. So there are moments that happen that are tough or that challenge us, especially in leadership, right? Of like, I don't have the answers to all of these things or I don't know how to move forward. And that's going to come up. I believe that comes up often throughout our lives. It has for me, at least, in different, different iterations of what I'm doing or who I'm growing through. And so I have found that practicing gratitude with those moments of like pressure around feeling stuck or I don't have the answers to all of these things, and just sitting still and allowing myself to soak in, what am I learning? How can I proceed? What are some options? What are some people here that I need to surround myself with that can help either coach me, educate me, provide additional details? But I actually think there's a lot of really good opportunities in those stuck moments, and it's the mindset associated to how can I actually like use this as a time to redirect or to figure out a different way or maybe something else that I need to dive a little bit deeper into.
Yeah, happy to jump in. I feel like, mindful listening allows us to discover amazing characteristics and values in people that they may not even, understand with themselves. And I hate to keep giving myself, as an example, but for me, when I retired from the Globetrotters, I'd done a lot of speaking. I'd spoken in nearly 85 different countries around the world. I didn't see that as a path for me post retirement. I thought that, I got a degree in health and physical education. So that was my fallback and that's what I get to do. Very quickly, I realized that that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to continue to be able to go around and make impact, in different parts of the world. And so a lot of my friends, they started to say, well, hey, why don't you write a book? Okay. I never really thought about writing a book. So I wrote a book. Then I had people say, well, you're a great speaker. You should go out and, potentially try to do a TEDx talk or speak, for a living. And that wasn't something that was, that was on my radar. But I just feel like once you begin to, listen to people and find value in them and point out to them, hey, you're really good at this. Maybe if you get a little bit uncomfortable and try this, there's something maybe a little bit bigger on the other side for you. And I've been able to apply some of these things to these tactics to some of my friends. I have friends who have worked regular jobs per se over the course of time. They continue to work their jobs, but some of them are really great entertainers. They're good on social media. And there's been times when they stopped and I say, what are you doing? You're good at this. Why would you stop? If you keep on going, then something eventually will happen. And I've had a couple of friends here recently, even in the past 6 months, saying, man, thank you. I had one friend say, there was a partner that I was working with that used to make fun of me, say, man, why are you making all these silly videos, on TikTok and on Instagram? And now he's actually thriving off of TikTok in business through his DJ business, through cooking boards and things of that such. So I think it's just a matter of, discovering values in people that they don't have. And even when you're listening on different types of phone calls, if it's Zoom calls for LinkedIn people that you haven't, met before, when I start to listen to people, I'm thinking, well, I may not have a connection with this person, but different people come to mind and I'll say, well, I have somebody in mind for you. So I think that's part of mindful listening. It can't be always about you. It can be about you, giving that bone, throwing that bone out there for someone else. And when you do stuff like that, it comes back around your way as well, because people show gratitude and they appreciate and they remember acts like this.
Now, this is powerful, and I have to tell you that when I started in my journey, I too had no idea that I was going to be a speaker. I have now 2 books. All this was never in my plan, but there was a greater plan. And if you do get uncomfortable, and that was one word that you both used, comfort is something that to me is the anti word, because when you're comfortable, that means you're not doing anything to grow. So define comfort and what's the value of comfort and why comfort is maybe something you don't want to stay in.
Comfort
Amanda.
is comfort is comfort is just no longer growing, really. It's saying that I've reached a certain point and I'm just okay with this. It doesn't have Comfort doesn't motivate you, it doesn't inspire you. And when you think back to being a young person, I mean, we're all, in our 30s and 40s and 50s at this point. There's a lot of ideas that we had when we were younger. Once we get comfortable, we forget about these ideas. But what happens is when we're put in situations where maybe we lose a job or we lose that first major goal that we accomplish in our life, we have an opportunity to reflect. We get to remember. We have to remember, because of the uncomfortability, some of these ideas and some of these skills that we had when we were younger. And these allow us to go out and rediscover them, work hard at them, because, as athletes, Amanda was an athlete before. She still is athletic. I was a professional athlete. But I remember all the extra work that I put in to accomplish, these first major goals. And, we get to reflect, we get to remember the things that we dreamed about. And we have our, the rest of our lives, whatever that time frame may be, to continue to develop, to continue to learn, and continue to help other people discover these same skill sets as well.
Absolutely. Amanda, is it ever too late?
Oh, of course not. Like I feel like we need to constantly be dreaming. In fact, that's the reason why I love doing TEDx Old Hickory, is it provides me with a platform to allow other people to just dive into who they are. What are their unique ideas, and how do they go about bringing that to the world in a meaningful way? And so I don't think it's ever too late. I think that where we get stuck is we don't start creating again, or we don't live in a playful, creative space, even if it's an hour a day, 20 minutes a day. Like, I think creativity, innovation, ideas is so critical, and it is never too late. Absolutely never too late.
I have to pipe in on that. It's never too late. And just share a really sweet and incredibly timely story where, for some listeners, they know that my parents have had some health struggles. And literally this morning, I was with my father before this podcast, and he had read me this quote that was all around sort of living every day to its fullest and always looking for, what we're grateful for in each day and being creative in each day. And it was just super moving to me. So I bought him this little amazing ceramic tile that said, "You are not too old and it's never too late." And I literally handed that to him this morning. And he was just so excited by it because it's true. I mean, he's, 85 years old and still looking, even when things are challenging and things are hard, at how he can still find something new, still realize that there's something in his day that he's never experienced before that may be uncomfortable, that he needs to adapt to. But seeing that as almost a gift instead of, this is going to set me back. And we started early in this conversation talking about our mindset being such a huge part of how we can take action. Like, we get to choose how we look and view at what's happening in those moments, so that we adapt, that we reflect. And I feel like we have talked about so many beautiful, strong skills that we all use to do that, right? Reflection being one, listening being one, knowing ourselves really well. The mindset, Amanda, of saying, when I am stuck, there's opportunity to understand, like, what I'm stuck. There's a gift in this, and what door might be opening that I don't see right now. So I love it. I had to share that story because it just feels like you almost couldn't make it up that I literally gave this tile to my 85-year-old dad, and that I really hope and I aspire to be like that at his age, to always be thinking, what is it that I can learn and how can I grow? And I don't get to choose my circumstances, but man, I get to choose how I react to them.
So I have a question with your platforms that you are just going out there and making some incredible strides. I see you on social media, on LinkedIn, all the different speaking engagements that you have. And what is the core of what you dream to do with your platform?
Happy to jump in on this one. For me, there was a point in my life where I didn't really realize what legacy was. I was comfortable, as we just discussed, for 18 years. I could remember, I signed 18 one-year contracts with the Harlem Globetrotters, and there was a point to where going into those meetings, I was thinking in my mind, just don't take any money away. I don't care if I get another raise. Just let me be able to do this, for the rest of my life. And it came to an end. And, for me, I learned a lot about branding. If you look at behind me, you see kindness is free. You see swag ball. During my years with the organization, they were spectacular at branding. So for me, I made some sacrifices. I left Louisiana, came out to California. I had a lot of experience in, Hollywood with shows like The Amazing Race, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And I decided immediately that I would brand myself. And I came up with this idea of swag ball. And basically what swag ball is, having swag. It was a, pretty catchy word. It's still a pretty catchy word. Everybody wants to have swag, wants to be cool. Everybody wants to ball, whether it's balling in a fancy car or living in a big house. So I came up with the terminology swag ball, and I actually trademarked it myself. I went through the process. I learned everything that I needed to do. And what came from that was Kindness is Free. And Kindness is Free was born during COVID. Swag ball was the brand, but Kindness is Free came about during COVID as a result of the mask that we had to wear. I felt like people were not communicating the way that they, should be, because everybody's mouth was covered up. You go to the grocery stores, nobody was really looking at each other, but I wanted to be able to put something on my mouth that let people know that I was having a conversation without even having a conversation. And what it turned into is, a brand. It is the inspiration behind swag ball, and that legacy now. It's not about Herb Lang. It's about when I'm long gone, my kids will have something, a brand that'll last forever. It's led to now when people go to different events, be it a billboard driving down the freeway or people are at a school, they see a sign of kindness, they send me screenshots of this, and that lets me know that I'm doing something right. So for me, that's what it's all about. It's leaving a legacy that allows me and my spirit, to live on forever. So that's what it means to me.
That's amazing. Amanda?
Yeah, so I am all about platforms that help elevate or amplify other people. So everything that I do, and let me give some context. like Herb, I've been around sports and athletics and coaching and leadership my entire life. I was a high level competitive gymnast. And so training very, very, very young, you get exposed to high level coaching, good and bad, as well as leadership. And the thing that I found is throughout every single of those stuck moments in my life, I'll tie it back to the stuck moments, is somebody has opened the door for me. And they've provided me with an opportunity or just the ability to push myself a little bit further. And so as I continue to grow and build my platforms and my relationships, it's all about how can I use these platforms, one, to showcase incredible leadership. Like I want to be a leader that somebody says, you know what, she's not perfect, but she tries really hard and she makes good decisions and she represents quality leadership. So that's really important to me. So from the legacy perspective is to carry that on to our next generations and show as a millennial, I can, I can be a great quality leader. But the other piece to this is also how can I use what I've built to help amplify other people. So I look at it as every opportunity that's created for me, I then have the ability to create opportunities for other people. So for example, Herb and I are doing this right now with each other and have for years. You know, I got connected into a TEDx years ago. I got Herb connected into that TEDx. So the first time that we met face to face, we actually delivered our TEDx talks together. And it's things like that where I'm always thinking about how can I leverage this platform, this opportunity, this resource to help elevate or amplify other people as well. And it goes into that legacy piece as well.
So powerful. I'm, it melts my heart because it lets me know that legacy and being intentional about giving to others what we've been blessed with is really the way that we can express kindness, joy, and gratitude. And one of the things we love to do in our podcast is every time we have the podcast, we have a joy song. And it's a song that basically is in your heart because music is that sub language that no matter what you're doing, it's playing in your brain. So we're going to give you the opportunity to play along and do the joy song. And then Beth is going to work with you on your gratitude stone. So, Herb, what's the song that has been resonating in your brain that goes along with this time we've had together?
Wow, that's a great question, and I think that you mentioned this before we even got on. But there's a song that Will Smith came out with last year. I'm not sure if it was at the Grammys or something that he came out with it, but it kind of talks about, it's like, don't give up on me. I made it through the storm. I know that we can make it. It's called We Will Make It.
Yes, it is.
That's a song that resonates with me. I've had some struggles even in this past year. I've had a car accident where my life could have been taken away. But even through that, I realized that I'm here for a reason. You know, my car flipped over. My dog died from the car accident 2 days after the accident. But for me, he served a major, major role in my life. When I retired from the Globetrotters in 2017, I wasn't very active. And by me getting this little pug dog, I began to get it back outside and I began to walk. You know, over the course of about 3 years, he and I made 3 or 4 cross country trips together. He was my riding buddy, and he died in a car accident, which I was able to walk out of. And so for me, it's about not giving up. There's always going to be some storms. There's going to be some wins and losses, but we'll make it as long as we stick together.
Awesome. And one of the things that's really important, everything has a purpose. There are no coincidences when we have our pet, when we meet someone. There's either a learning or a growing that happens in those connective moments. And look at the power that you've been able to glean from that time you had with that beloved pet. Thank you for not giving up, for keep going.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Yeah, so mine's a little bit of a different approach. I would say that the thing that comes to mind is Diamonds by Rihanna. So this song is quite meaningful. The reason being is because I was terrified of public speaking. So this was a big thing for me to overcome. Most people see me as extroverted. Naturally, I'm quite introverted, and public speaking was like terrifying. And I remember that the first time I walked on stage where I felt comfortable and confident, and I felt like, you know what, I belong on this stage, even though, you know, I was terrified. That song was the song that they played when I came out. So, you know, to me, that's one of those moments of, you know, you talk about getting stuck. So that was a stuck moment for me, knowing that I need to be more professional and forward facing and speak and do media work and all this other stuff. But that was a big hurdle for me to push through and overcome. So I just remember that song they played as my walkout song. And it was the first time, even after doing it many, many times before, that I felt like, you know what, I think I kind of belong here. So that's what came up for me.
Do you still use that song as your walkout music?
I would.
You should.
I'm
Yeah,
glad
you will. Exactly.
I'll remember that.
You will.
Yeah,
I would. I remember it. And for whatever reason, you know, I think that in leadership, this is a really, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but public speaking is terrifying for a lot of people, even doing stuff like this. And that was something that I was challenged with. And just using that song reminding me of like, I have the ability to use my voice to make impact. I do belong on this stage, and I do belong in sharing this idea with other people. It was a meaningful thing for me. So I guess I'll need to carry it out for future events as well.
Hey, Neo and Beth, I'm glad that she said that because Amanda and I, we're going to be co-hosting an event May the 20th through the 22nd in Owensboro, Kentucky, the Innovate Summit. I was lucky enough to be a speaker there last year, and we'll make sure that Amanda comes out to Diamonds. And my song is that I typically come out to actually is "One Man Can Change the World" by Big Sean. It's a song that really resonates with me, and I love to point out to the audience it's more than just one man, it's more than just one woman, but it starts with you. It starts with one person and the person next to you, you know, building them up. Truly believe that we all can change the world if we can dig deep down inside and, you know, put a little bit of trust and faith into the people next to us. So I am excited that now I know what Amanda's walkout song is.
Yeah, and you need to own it. You need to own it because reality, think of the energy that song, both songs give you when you get up on that stage. No longer is it about you. It's about the impact that you do to that audience. It's about how you're giving your full purpose to them. So I'm excited. I know that Kentucky is going to be blessed. Any other things that you have coming up that we should know about before we go into Gratitude Rocks?
We've got lots of
any other? Well,
you want to bring us another podcast?
Level events. We will add all the other ones, obviously, later.
Well, I would just say that, you know, Herb and I are collaborating in a more intentional way together this year and for future years to come as well. You know, we'll be doing joint keynotes together. We've got a really powerful keynote that we're building, joint emceeing, as well as a one-day corporate workshop geared around teamwork. So taking some of the best practices that Herb's carried from the Globetrotters and all of the other teams that he's been a part of, and then also my corporate background and how I've built my team, both, you know, internal in the organization, but external as well. So that's something that I'm really excited about with future things to come.
Yeah, and for me, I just want to say that, I mean, I've always been a part of a team, and you know, the last 8 years or so, it's kind of been, you know, a little bit of lone wolfing, but I mean, it's connections and being around people like Amanda, who is a powerhouse, like you say, Neo. Whether she wants to accept it or not, she is in a sense a mentor. It's because of her, honestly, that I've really been able to advance my speaking career. Because there were times, not that I would have given up, there were times where I didn't see the light, but whenever I didn't see that light, she's always kind of came around and brought that joy and inspired me. And for me, she's the kind of person that I don't want to let down. I don't want to disappoint, and I will not disappoint. So anybody who has a connection with, with Amanda, I encourage them to reach out. We're creating some powerful things together. I'm becoming a better person, a better speaker, a better leader. I'm understanding her generation, that she's a little bit younger than I am. That's kind of a bridge that's also a key factor. So I'm really grateful for what we're creating and the legacy that we get to leave behind. And I'm grateful that I get to meet you guys. It's because of her that I'm on this podcast with the two of you. So she is a powerhouse, and she may not speak a lot about what she does, but I have a lot of gratitude for Amanda.
She is a quiet, unstoppable person. But it's time now for Gratitude Rocks. So,
Yeah, that was
Beth, I
cute
hand it over.
gratitude. Exactly. Herb, you said it. So we've talked a lot about it. We always do because gratitude is such an integral part of staying positive and impacting those people around us, right? Starts with us knowing what we're most grateful for. So this is Gratitude Rocks. And you guys, for those just listening, you can hear, you know this. I'm going to reach in, but this time I'm going to do it a little bit more specifically. So, Herb, I'm going to reach in for you and
Let's do
grab
it.
a rock. Okay, look at this is already happening. Hold on. Can you read inspire? Ha ha. Well, when the word inspire is chosen as your personal rock, what comes up for you?
For me, I think about my high school basketball coach. He was my coach from grade 7 through 12, and when you bring out that word, sometimes I've done workshops for teachers where I actually put up photos of teachers who I remain in contact over the years, and I actually think that he was that was his word, to be honest with you, because from grade 7 through 12, he was like a father figure to me. His son was my best friend going through high school, and he's always been an inspiration to me. He's the reason why I decided to major in health and physical education. He was a gym coach, but the difference and the impact that he made and the inspiration that he gave to so many, it's something that lasts forever. So when I think of inspiration and I think of gratitude, that's the person I think of. I think it's in order for us to have a better world, we have to be grateful instead of hateful. So I just think of my high school
Oh,
basketball coach when it comes to this.
oh,
Love that.
ah, I love that too. And I can't help but share that you talked about legacy. You brought us to that place, and then inspire was chosen. So of course you chose somebody who inspired you. But like I'm here already, I'm inspired by you. And I just want to make that clear. I saw it and thought, well, that is you. Like you are an inspiration to the people listening and to the people that have been around you. So how beautiful and humble that you of course chose it to be someone else, but just know that you are absolutely creating that legacy as you walk this world, because I'm feeling inspired by our conversation. So that's pretty amazing. All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, Amanda. Okay, here we
Okay.
have
Wow.
trust.
Okay. So this is really funny. And this is no coincidences, right? So in 2025, and this is a little bit about me, but it's also about other people. Our TEDx Old Hickory event is based around trust. Like that's the theme. It's around truth and trust. So I'll pull this back around about like what's popping in mind aside from that is there are 8.2 plus billion people on the planet. And for whatever reason, the four of us are sitting here together. And for whatever reason, if you're listening to this, you're tuning in. And that's really powerful to think about, right? Because out of all the different things we could be doing, all the different people that we could be talking to, all the different people that could be listening in, to me, this is purpose, right? Is like we are meant to be on this call for whatever reason, and we're meant to share this space so that in conversation we can impact the lives of other people. So when the word trust comes to me as far as a rock, I think about you know we need to be trustworthy people as leaders. Like trust is the component of how we need to show up and engage in the world with others as well. And so it's really beautiful.
For us, what we've learned about Gratitude Rocks and the Joy playlist, it's always perfect. It always comes out perfect because it's coming from our energy and our spirit. And the reality is, when we got the honor of you accepting joining us in Joy and Gratitude podcast, we knew that we would be blessed, but we more importantly knew that this would be a source of inspiration, trust, safe place, and growth for our audience. And that for us is everything. So now we like to say thank you. We will have all your information available for our audience to follow you. And I know that we will be following as we continue to untangle ourselves and grow in joy and gratitude. See you next time.